Hail Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. Today we're talking about the first 3 episodes of the second season of Andor. The episode's entitled 1 Year Later, Sagrona Teema, and Harvest. It's the first of 4 installments, each 3 episodes in length. We open 4 years before the Battle of Yavin. Each of our 4 installments will jump forward 1 year. So the season's going to lead us right up to the events of Rogue One. Cassian is stealing a prototype TIE Avenger with the help of someone on the inside, Nia. She is new to the espionage game, justifiably very nervous, but he talks her down, saying her nerves help to keep her awake. He says, "You're coming home to yourself. You've become more than your fear. Let that protect you." The heist turns dangerous and a bit comical when Cassian realizes he trained on the wrong model TIE fighter, doesn't know how to fly the Avenger. Luckily for him, he eventually figures it out and escapes.
Well, in his defense, it's a more advanced model.
Yes, but there's that bit later on where he's like, "You trained me on the wrong one." Like he's he's upset. It's like, I thought I knew what I was doing. I didn't. So yeah, I had to walk into that one. We end episode 3 with Brasso getting shot and killed by stormtroopers. They actually hit someone. There you go. Cassian arrives on the planet Mina Rao just in time to rescue a traumatized Bix and young Will, leaving the body of Brasso behind. Mon Mothma concludes the elaborate 3-day wedding ceremony for her daughter. She tells Luthen that her childhood friend Tay, who is secretly helping to fund the rebellion, is now shaking her down for more cash. Luthen tells her, without saying the actual words, that Tay has placed himself on the loose end that needs killing category, as he unwittingly flies off in a limo, essentially, piloted by the rebel Cinta, undoubtedly to his violent death. Mon Mothma takes to the dance floor in an attempt to temporarily, in my opinion, dance away the overwhelming sense of guilt and fear that she's feeling. All that said, Paul.
Yes?
What'd you think of the first 3 episodes of Season 2?
Well, I did enjoy them. I enjoyed them quite a bit because it was nice to be back in that world.
Yep.
And there were several parts that I really enjoyed. I know that some people have had some issues though with the Cassian on the planet there with the
the
ragtag
the ragtag rebels.
Yeah. I thought that was just fine, even though it was interesting to hear Tony Gilroy talk about how poorly they're organized at this time, all these rebels or whatever, because Cassian knew the group that they were in, but even he was reluctant to tell them which group that he was with. So in this one, once they lost their head, they dissembled into ridiculousness. So that's an important thing to see. And the other part that people may have been less than thrilled with is on the planet with Brasso and Bix and Wilmon. Is that who it is?
I was calling him Will, but Wilmon, I think it is. Yeah.
So they're just hiding out. I guess it's like oh, okay. They're trying to keep the home nice for Cass, and so he can come back. They weren't really doing anything, but you did see an example of how the Empire is dealing with the rebels and where they can be and so. Oh, and one thing I didn't really catch, but other people have stressed there when Brasso is faced with the Empire guards, that actually he was expressing anger at the
he was definitely trying to bail out the shopkeeper. He tried by going, "Hey, it was probably you that sold me out." He's trying to put some kind of a barrier.
It didn't initially sort of like, that doesn't seem like Brasso to me.
Right. But he gives him that look when he's down on the ground and he kind of looks back up and I don't know that it will help, frankly, but he tried. So hopefully that plays out for that guy. Another thing that may have pass some people by, although, it shows those, like, Mayan-type pyramids when Cassian is leaving the mysterious planet at the end of episode 2 with the incompetent rebels.
Yeah.
He's leaving Yavin. That's Yavin 4.
Yeah.
And so we know that this show is going to come back there. Obviously, the rebels are going to be ensconced there by the time this season ends. So somehow there's a little bit of a bridge there between maybe, Cassian having experience on that planet be like, oh, a good place.
Yeah, filled
there's
with
some really
lots of,
incompetent people
great
there.
animals,
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'll just say this, like that. I will say that I thought maybe if I were to rank the different plot lines that we have in play in this, probably I would think that the Yavin-based plot line was maybe the weakest. It was still, as you say, it was watchable, it was engaging. It just felt a little, almost too silly. I don't know. It was a little weird, like. Silly's fine, but like
really,
I don't know. There was just something about, like when they were doing rock paper scissors to figure out who should rule the group. They almost seem clownish. They're clownishly incompetent. They're trying to move the ship so they can shoot it at the guy, but if they shot it at their friends, then they would shoot the pilot, and then anyway, I don't know. There's like also like oh my god, we can't eat anything. These melons are terrible. Oh, but there's a whole bunch of animals running around. You have blasters. Couldn't you just shoot one of the animals and then eat it? No? Okay. I mean, like, they're so incompetent. They're clownishly incompetent, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know. The fact that they're clearly disorganized and antagonistic towards each other, and clearly, they're coming from probably rather disparate places, so it's not like they have that in common, who they are, and so No,
and it's. I mean, the point of that scene, I think, is relevant and is highly informative to what's happening here. With what we're seeing is these different factions that are all rising up for their own reasons, but they're not unified. And even in this one group that's only like 15 people big, they can't even unify themselves. They can't even unify a tiny group. So so that's important.
It should be driven to extremes, and since they're not very rational, that I guess I was more accepting of their rock paper scissors. Than you were. Not that I thought they're really going to come to a good agreement as a result of this. No, it's like par for the course.
Exactly. Someone will. We probably would see if Cassian had stayed around, which good for him, he didn't. You probably have someone question the rules. Wait, you won? Well, it wasn't fair because you used the Austrian rules. Whatever.
Like, actually, I think in a typical drama, you'd see some point of someone just like, look, we're only fighting each other. This is. But no one had that thought shut up and shoot that guy. But
But I mean, I liked, for instance, I appreciate the dialogue, but again, it's kind of clownish where they're like, when they first, draw on Cassian, like, all right, we got 15 blasters on you. And then the other guy, the second in command, I assume, was like, hey, why would you tell him how many blasters? Like, well, I just thought it would be like, hey, I should tell him that he's got a lot of people. But you said 15. Why be so specific? Anyway, so it was comical and necessary. I think maybe the execution wasn't as good as, say, like, I thought like the whole wedding sequence throughout 3 episodes was really interesting because it was so tense the entire time that this seemingly happy event is happening. With like, there's a lot going on under the surface.
Of course, I think I've heard some criticisms about that and how much we get of that. So it's interesting how some people gravitate to some stories than others. I would say the thing that I loved the most was Cyril. And
Dedra
and the
mother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. No, that I actually wrote this down here. The quote. So Dedra is playing along. I mean, just the fact that she and Cyril are living together, that they have a relationship is anyway. That's interesting. Anyway, but mother-in-law comes to visit. tension. Cyril leaves, goes and lays down on a bed, which I may have done that once or twice at a family event. I'll say that. So, but I feel you, Cyril. But so Dedra gives the line, "This game ends now."
Yeah.
You want Cyril in your life?
Yeah.
You will think before you speak.
Yeah.
I'll make sure he visits twice a month. I'll make sure he calls you. I will guarantee a level of engagement, but it will be inversely proportional to the volume of anxiety you generate in our lives. Yeah. So she brings out her imperial officer persona there.
Yeah. And
yeah, it's great.
Giving some great insight into her upbringing with, daughter of criminals, raised in an orphanage.
Not just an orphanage. They mention an imperial Kinderblock.
Yes, you're right.
That is a Nazi term. The Nazis use Kinderblocks as orphanages, so it's a definitely, reminding us.
Yes.
An analogy to the Empire here. But yeah. So from age 3, so she never really knew her parents and has been raised in the Empire, and you can see the results. That whole thing was really enlightening, and the Cyril Dedra relationship feels like it's a non-starter, but it's going somewhere. I don't know. Their personalities seem so different.
Do they? They're both driven towards justice.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. Like him, he was like, look at this terrible thing in the first season, look at this terrible thing that's happening now.
Right,
and she's like, look at this, we've got to get this, we're going after these people. It's not merely
I see
just
her more
competence,
political than justice. I think justice is a big word to put on
her.
No,
she's more concerned with getting the person than she is jockeying for the attention of it. She's not going to her boss and say, "Oh, look at this guy, the way he's doing it." No, it all happens in that court where she has to defend herself. But most of her time is spent not talking to other people about the power that she can do.
She wants to find Axis. She wants to find Luthen, essentially.
Right. She's working on that. And so, she enjoys the interrogations and all that. But
so you're saying maybe that they're both obsessive in some ways. Maybe that's one of
and
their
also
traits that they share.
and he's concerned with his looks and all that, and he's he's political and trying to get up,
trappings.
but the thing that he's most proud about, that he tells the thing, I was looking for this problem, and I just worked to finally find this one person, and everything lit up when I did that. So they're both obsessed with using.
I guess she seems really imperious, and he seems like a goof. I guess that's where
goof?
Wow. He comes off as a goof to me.
Yeah, not to me.
Okay.
I mean,
all right. Well, here out in the audience, you guys can let us know what you think.
Yeah, it's like
Cyril.
it's like he was right in finding out that Cassian was the person. He was getting that information and following it and everything. He just.
I guess that's what. Okay, it's a good point. If you take what the show is giving us. Yeah, it seems like he's pretty effective at it. But I guess what I am interpreting, the subtext I get from the scenes he's in, is he's a parody. Like, for instance, in this, I forgot which episode it is, but he's leading around a new recruit.
Yes.
And he's like, look at all, your life will be an adventure. Here in this huge factory floor filled with computers, and you'll be sitting at a terminal for your entire life, but oh my God, it's amazing. Look what I accomplished here. To me,
right?
That's
but what he's
joke.
selling him on, know what? Take the job seriously. Do the best you can. So that's what he believes. So he's sincere in that.
Yeah, but that seems silly.
I mean, he doesn't.
Right?
Well, he doesn't examine exactly what they're trying to do. No, he's like, just like he was talking in the first season, where he was like, look here, they just killed 2 people, and you must want to push it aside. This is important.
It's funny. It's funny that before we just talked here, before the last 15 minutes, I would have assumed you would have agreed with me that Cyril's a goof, and so I'm actually kind of shocked. Like, okay, all right, good to know.
No, an aspect of his thing is fighting the sort of mental and emotional what his mother did to him, and so he's not as confident as Dedra. So she didn't have a parents really. She was just raised by rather emotional things, and I think that you can see that's what she was sort of struggling against in that first season, which is sort of like, wow, he's engaging with me. He's very passionate in what he's doing, and I think him wanting to do that and recognizing that she had that same passion is what Yes, him following her around is creepy, and everybody I think is so bothered by that. Or at least they're preoccupied and seeing that above everything else.
He's like a stalker type behavior.
Right, exactly.
Obsessive, yeah.
But I think, the fact that he recognized in her that same passion is why, once it culminated in him saving her life, he wasn't goofy about saving her life. He
wasn't goofy about saving her life.
No, he wasn't. He found her and pulled her aside. He was effective in doing that. So
in the old Disney shows, Goofy occasionally did some brave things.
Cyril. They thought you were complimenting him by making that Disney connection, but
that's right. I am very interested to see where the relationship goes, but we'll see what their ultimate fates are. I guess on that note, when I think about like where a lot of these characters are going to die, obviously, I mean,
sure,
a la Rogue One, and we know that a lot of these characters don't show up in the original trilogy. Sure. Luthen, I assume, is going to die. That's probably in that last installment of episodes. But ultimate fates of Mon Mothma's husband and daughter.
Oh, yeah.
I am really interested to see where this goes.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of options. I mean, yes, could the Empire kill them and it's like her, Luke's Owen and Beru moment? It could be, but
I think it's more likely that, I would
crazy,
say this.
But
I think, one, that they would be embarrassed once she is exposed, and they'll side on the. I would expect both of them to side on the Empire's side,
and maybe they don't even. I mean, agreed. Either whatever the reasoning for them siding with the Empire, maybe they do it as a way. Maybe she convinces them you should stay with the Empire because otherwise you're going to be used as bait against me. So
she might help them in saying denounce
but it
me.
might also be their actual feelings like, oh my god,
I'm sure
you?
I'm sure I think even who knows if it'll happen, because I think in an episode she'll be exposed, and who knows if it's the next episode or the following episode. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say probably the third episode third trilogy.
The third trilogy,
where she is exposed, so that by the time the final four happens, that she's already separated from the Senate. And,
I got some thoughts on that actually, but yes, I agree.
Then the fallout of Leda and her husband.
It does seem like, however it happens, that she is going to have to sacrifice her family for the rebellion. It's not like, I'll take you with me.
She has to. Obviously she has to leave the Senate and leave all her life. And so, Leda's already, shown exactly what she is. I mean, it's all heartbreaking because it's sort of like...
Yeah, it is heartbreaking.
It's sort of like, I feel like...
I wish
if
you were
I
drunk.
If I knew Mon Moth, if I knew Mon Moth, I was like, okay, you know what? You need to zip this in the bud, man. She's being disrespectful to you. I would have made her come along with her on that trip when she was like, forget it. You're off the hook. Dad's going to take me into work. No, you're not going to do anything that you want to do, except you're going to do this, and you don't want to do that, and now I'm going to tell you that you can't do anything else.
Yeah, she gets this verbal slap down. That... From Luthen as well, when Luthen does the "How nice for you," line, which is in the same episode. So it's like she doesn't understand what Luthen is referring to about Tay, and he's like, "Oh, how nice for you." But then also she gets this thing where she starts off this plea to her daughter to say, like, when I got married, I was forced into an arranged marriage. My mom was just drunk, but here I am telling you. You don't have to go through with this. It's okay. And at the end of this very long, she obviously thought about it, spelled out all the points. Her daughter's like, well, I wish you were drunk. Like, oh, God. Oh, it's just hard.
Yeah,
so,
and it's after she was discouraged with her husband, or at least a husband to be anyway, and how affectionate he was, and the fathers are looking at both of them saying, "Oh, she's going to tear him apart." Well, she, he's got to step up if he's going to be with her. So they recognize that she's the stronger of the two, and we can see that too. I mean, she's not, she's definitely strong-willed, and so that's the hint that she's going to, perhaps have some problems in the marriage. But no, she doesn't want to hear it.
In fact, when she's doing her dancing with reckless abandon at the end there, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the lyrics to the song Let's Face the Music and Dance.
Oh, sure.
There may be troubles ahead, but while there's moonlight and music, let's face it. She's like, look, in this moment, I can be in the moment. This might literally be my last chance in my life to just not care about...
Perhaps, or it's just like, you know what, I can't scream and yell, but I can take a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
And it's like dance out of frustration and anger and and fear.
It was very effective. I liked the
way
that.
Yeah.
So we do have this. You mentioned like some people didn't like some scenes, and one of the more controversial scenes in the Star Wars fandom seems to be this attempted sexual assault scene with Bix.
Oh.
And for me, in a depiction of a brutal, immoral regime that needs to be overthrown.
Sure.
It doesn't really seem absurd or out of place to remind the audience that sexual violence is tragically a consistent component.
They're certainly not
regimes.
on the guy's side. What are the objections that people are expressing?
It's just because the idea that it's Star Wars. Yeah.
Okay.
That it's it's for kids.
This is for kids?
It's not for kids, but I think the idea is like it should be. Is the idea like George Lucas? Anyway, blah blah blah.
Just recently, they released the series that looks at the making of Star Wars, Light and Magic, and just over the last weekend, they released the 3 episodes where they actually talk about the prequels. And so you actually get to hear George Lucas talking about the fact that, he's still defensive, of course, of, making...
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks, making him more, making him for kids, basically. And, just like, kids like this show, so we're, making it for kids. And how much people are sort of like, this franchise is not growing up with me, basically. And so... it's very interesting to hear because, like, they talk to the guys behind making these characters, and they revealed that George Lucas was like, "Oh, those Ewoks? Yeah, no, make them cuter, make them like little bears." Oh, you can see the designs that were looking like more like animals and not like little teddy bears. But no, he's like, "No, do that, make them teddy bears."
But just to say, people are like, "Hey, wow, I didn't expect that," and
interesting.
I would say that in this show,
it's certainly in light of a lot of things
place.
Like the torture that they do, and in the first season.
Yeah, I do hope that Bix gets to experience joy at some point. I don't know how she's going to fit that in, but she is like Job. But she's the Job of this show at the moment.
In the trailers where we saw that scene with her with that hoodie and that gun, she just blam,
right. So it's like, hey, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's I've been through crap, but I'm not going to take any more crap.
Apart from the assaults, we also, at the end of this episode, we see her being confronted with Brasso's death at the hands of the Empire. It's just like a series of tragedies. Anyway, but I thought it was really effectively done. It was very tense.
It's interesting to me that people have a problem with it. I guess just, they were clothed the entire time.
Right, yes. Now, you mentioned that you thought maybe we would see Mon Mothma be revealed, as being part of the rebellion in the third installment. In other words, like episodes 7 through 9. And I think you're right for a couple of reasons. We had this whole thing about Gorman,
right?
And obviously, so the Empire wants to gouge mine Gorman. That sounds.
And where's that massacre supposed to occur?
And the massacre is supposed to occur in the year 2 BBY, which would place it in that group you're talking about, episodes 7 and 9. We're 4 years before Battle of Yavin.
Right.
The next group of 3, so episodes 4 through 6 will be 3 years, and then 7 through 9 will be 2 years. And so what happens is the Gorman Massacre happens, and as a result of that, Mon Mothma gives us impassioned speech about the dangers of Palpatine. She resigns from the Senate, and she goes on the run. So I think that's probably, you're talking episode 9, I think. You're going to lead up to this big ba-ba-ba, and then that's going to conclude that arc will be, I'm now on the run, probably without my family. And, good luck.
It'd be nice
good luck, daughter.
If Leia was redeemed in some way, but if I had to put money on it, I would not bet for that at all.
Are we going to get the daughter dressing up in some kind of imperial gear, like, I will hunt you down, mother? You're like, oh no, wait, I am your daughter. Oh, whoa, where did this come from?
Now, one thing people have been saying is contrasting, since we know what's going to happen with Cassian, and we certainly have seen, Mon Mothma. She, she was in Rogue One, and I think we see her again later on, right?
She's been in the Rebels animated show as well.
Yeah.
You talked about the interview with Tony Gilroy.
Yes.
You shared that with me. That's from the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith podcast. Very enlightening interview. Talked for over a half an hour. Yeah. He does mention, too, there were no unused scenes in this season's filming, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But Tony Gilroy doesn't seem particularly concerned about reuniting Cassian with his long-lost sister.
No, he does not.
So that's Cassian's original motivation in season 1, episode 1.
Yeah.
But he said, quote, he doesn't want a, quote, cheesy reunification.
Yeah.
And then he elaborated, and he said that Cassian's inability to rescue his sister, in his mind, gives him a savior complex that explains why he's constantly risking himself to save people. So that's the way that Tony Gilroy is lensing Cassian's separation from his sister.
I would hope though
into a savior complex.
That he's able to, that Cassian is able to express that at some point, just so you can see.
Right,
he's perhaps given up on his sister, not
considering it's literally our first.
Yes.
Experience with him in this show is this search for the sister. It would be odd if we never got a payoff. I mean, even a slight payoff. Word that she died at some point, or I don't know.
Or just something. I looked and looked, or I'm still looking, or something.
Never found her.
Yeah.
Something that pays off that initial motivation. It would be odd if that doesn't happen. Tony Gilroy mentioned. He was asked what was the trickiest plot line from this first group of 3 episodes, and he said, writing wise, the trickiest plot line was to convey in this installment that Tay had gone from the transition from a childhood friend to a blackmailing liability. How to do that, and so he said they had to really think it through, and I thought they pulled that off pretty well. But
I really like, especially watching it the second time, when he's just last time he's talking to her, and how he wants to say something. He kind of wants to, but he's like, we can wait for this meeting to have that happen, And I think you can see, some of his regret or bad feeling about what he has to do or what he thinks he has to do. So he doesn't want to begin it, but it's just giving you that taste of, you're not going to like what he's going to say. And so he's reluctant to say it yet, but he is going to say it.
And he's put into this situation, which you can imagine people who are fronting money for an illicit purpose. He's like, hey, it was easier for me to do when I had money. Now I've got this divorce. I'm short on funds, and now I don't have money. Boy, it's awfully awkward for me now, and so maybe you could give me some of that money. Anyway, so so long, Tay. We hardly knew ye, but yeah. So we're gonna jump forward a year, and we're gonna kind of see where all this stuff is. Where are these characters now? flash forward a year. So I'm interested to see how this plays out in the next. What is the big arc for the next 3 episodes? I think Gorman is 7 to 9, and then the events leading up to Rogue One is the 4th installment. I don't really know what the 2nd installment is, so that'll be
yeah. And at what point do you think we're going to get K2SO?
Right. God, he could show up as late as 10 through 12.
Yeah.
I figure it seems like if he showed up that late from their relationship in Rogue One, it feels like they've been together longer than just like a few weeks or a month. So I feel like they're probably going to have been together for at least a year. Okay. I'll go with the Gorman Massacre. I'll go with that's when it happens.
Cool.
So, all right. Well, we'll be interested to see how this all plays out.
Oh, very interested, right? We've been hankering for this for as long as we heard it was coming. So
Indeed. So we'll be back talking about episodes 4 through 6. If you out there have some thoughts on where you think this show is going and maybe what the fates of some of our major characters are, feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir. And we'll talk to everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.